brunch. Hit it, boys.
Wouldn't be a Patreon episode without at least doing a little Affleck week sort of check-in. I hadn't thought about Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez in forever, probably since Affleck week. It's like they got back together. Everyone was so excited, and then everyone forgot about it. Are they still together? What's going on?
I think so. I'm respecting their privacy.
Oh, I love that move. That's a class move out of you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Now, if we weren't classy, we'd look up, hey, what's going on with these two? I did see somewhere someone was it came across my desk that they were house hunting or something like that.
They're
And
moving
at first
fast.
I was like, wow, they are moving extremely fast. But I feel like every 3 seconds you hear that a celebrity is buying or selling a house. Like, no,
when you have that much money, it's not as big of like a step as like a normal person like me or you.
Right. If either of us bought a house or were house hunting, it would be like, it would mean a lot of things.
Yes.
This, I feel like they could buy a house and just like give it to somebody or never go there. So that's not huge news. But what is huge news, I think, Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck are low-key Instagram official thanks to Leah Remini. Leah Remini had herself a birthday party and posted a thing afterwards, kind of doing like a Taylor Swift type move of being like, this was such a good party, and it's really just a picture of like all the people that were there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like great time partying last night.
Check
like
out all my famous friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like a Mad Libs headline.
Right. Thanks. Yeah. Leah Remini's an odd choice for that.
Yeah. What? But
it would be
good for them. Apparently, that's not Instagram official if you have to go through somebody else to find out that or confirm that they're dating.
Yeah.
It's only Instagram official if they put it up themselves. That's like the point of the term Instagram official. It's like, okay, everybody, we are broadcasting it. They didn't make the choice to be on somebody else's Instagram.
And you can be in somebody else's picture with your significant other, and that could mean anything. That's just hiding in plain sight. That's easy, plausible deniability. You could just be like, yeah, it's a picture of me and Jennifer Lopez because we're both friends with Leah Remini, who isn't. We were both invited to this party. Had to be there with, I forget who else was in the pictures, but if you were a celebrity,
was Kevin James there?
I don't know what their relationship is. Let's see. Leah Remini, Kevin James relationship. They argued about something. King and Queen star Leah Remini says Kevin James, quote, ruined me for life, but in a good way.
What? What a twist.
I had Kevin who has ruined me for life. She wrote of James in her book, Troublemaker. Oh, she has a book because she famously left Scientology.
Right, yeah.
So she has a book about that. He was my first leading man, and despite doing other shows with other leading men, I've never found anyone who could compare favorably to him. When I was acting with him, I felt safe. That's really cool.
Yeah, but that's a rough way to start that praise. He ruined me.
Yeah. That's also she kind of described Kevin James the way artists describe working with Jack Antonoff. They're like, it just felt good to be around him. And you're like, how'd you feel about the work you did? He really listens, He really listens to you, and he's a really thoughtful collaborator. Cool. Are you, what's your favorite song you guys did? Something about just he has a very calming presence about him.
He doesn't, though. Jack Antonoff has a threatening aura.
He kind of, I've never figured out the Jack Antonoff thing. I'm not going to try now. It would take me a lot of time and it would just be a waste of time because I can't figure it out. Billboard put out the top 50 producers of the century, and I'm like, why am I going to click on this? Why I'm solely clicking on this to see who they have Jack Antonoff ahead of, to make myself furious. He was ahead of Ariel Rekshide, Dr. Luke, Dave Cobb. He was ahead of massive hit makers, and obviously you can hate Dr. Luke over the Kesha lawsuit, but he made Since You've Been Gone. And if you're talking about like who are the best producers, like Jack Antonoff has not made a hit the caliber of Dr. Luke, the caliber of actually maybe Dave Cobb, but Dave Cobb did Sedona. So
Ooh.
he's a favorite in our book. And I mean, R.L. Ruckscheid has done everything by Heim and by Vampire Weekend and everything. So anyway, frustrating list, but I need to stop clicking on things that are just going to upset me. They did have Max Martin 1. That's good enough.
Lovely. Love to hear that.
So congrats to the happy couple, Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez, and Leah Remini. They seem to have a strong friendship going right now. The purpose of this episode is to discuss potential bounce back Shyamalan candidate, Old, a movie where a bunch of people are stuck in this area and you have to figure out which one of them is the devil.
Yeah, that's a one way to interpret that movie. What is that? Is
devil
that
vibes?
I don't think I've ever seen Devil.
Oh, you haven't?
I don't think so. Is that the one?
Terrible.
Is that the one where they're in the elevator?
Everyone's stuck in an elevator, and everyone's stuck in an elevator, and one person is the devil, and you have to figure out who it is. I'm going to spoil this because I was talking about this with friends the other day. If the movie came at the time the movie came out, you couldn't tell like which one of these people is the devil. But if this movie came out right now, you would look at all the people, and it would just be so clear. It's the oldest person.
Okay.
Whoever the oldest person is like probably the devil.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And
that's not like ageism. That's just like if there's a better chance I feel somebody very old might like be in things for the wrong reasons or whatever, then I don't know. There's just like children there. Like they're not smart enough to be the devil yet.
we got to ask the question now: does M. Night Shyamalan hate old people? Because this movie, it's called Old, and it's not kind to old people.
Or maybe he fetishizes old people because he turns everybody into old people.
That's true. He is to old people what Quentin Tarantino is to feet.
Yeah, you know what? And a complaint I have about this movie, we'll get to it when we get to it, but I have like an awkward kind of, not necessarily Tarantino feet-esque complaint, but we'll get to it. I don't want to just like start off with this complaint because it's clearly not a main takeaway from the movie, but
I'm very excited to talk about this movie. It is an absolutely insane movie.
I was thinking after I saw it, I was like, there's a good chance. There was an episode of Brunch where Pete said no words because you were not there for it. I was like, this might be the first episode of Brunch where maybe I'll say like hello at the beginning, but this could be like a record low words for Dave because I don't know what to think and how to feel and what to say about the movie. I've formulated thoughts since. You're much fresher off it. I saw it last night. You're like within the hour.
Within the hour,
you're still processing.
Yeah.
But it seems like you have clearer thoughts than I do right now because the movie is just batshit.
It is legitimately one of the most ridiculous, preposterous movies that I've seen in a while. And like that, I'm saying that knowing going in that it was like a pretty preposterous premise. Everybody who's seen the trailers, and I assume that everybody has seen the trailers because they've been playing on a loop for about 4 months. I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but like the way that I felt about this movie did a complete 180 from the beginning to the end, because when it first came out, I was like, oh, this looks interesting. I could be down for this. And then by the end of it, I saw the trailer so many times that I hated the movie. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this trailer anymore. Going in, knew it was preposterous, somehow even more ridiculous than I could have ever imagined.
There's a turning point about, I'd say there's probably 2 acts in this movie. Would that be correct? Maybe 3.
I guess, yeah.
Maybe 3. Getting there, getting to the beach, and then stuff after the beach. Anyway, 2/3 of the way into the movie, some things change and it gets really interesting. And I thought the last third of this movie was really interesting and really strong. But for so much of this movie, all you can think about is how absurd it is. And its absurdity is not like you're in its world absurd. It's like I'm in this movie theater and I'm with all these people and we're all watching this crazy thing on the screen. So the bulk of the movie is a little is a little too ridiculous. The premise is that people are on a beach where, for some reason, everybody ages very quickly, and when you find out the reason why, I think it's actually very interesting. But or I'm sorry, the reason they're put there, the reason why is something with the atmosphere affects your cells, so they age quicker,
Yeah,
and that's
it is like the thinnest premise or explanation as to why it's happening. It's like covered in a couple lines. It's just like there's this magnetized force or whatever under the earth, and like it's the perfect spot on the planet where it affects the cells to a rapid degree.
right. And so the two questions you have are, why do they age so quickly? And that covers that, even if it doesn't make sense. But I like that they at least did it in a non like, they didn't go all like, oh, you're in an alternate universe, blah blah, and then
Hmm.
like, because that's a cop out. But just if they're like, yo, it's science and it's magnets and just trust us, it's for one of those reasons. I'm like, okay, fine, I'm watching the movie. I will allow it. The other question you're left with is, and a lot of people are getting jokes off about this, is why don't you just leave the island? And the answer to that is, I'm gonna try to answer this. Tell me if I'm wrong. This was my takeaway from it. Like, you can't, because you're aging quickly, if you move to other spots, like let's say like you run 10 feet or whatever, the whole aging process and the universe just doesn't make sense, so you black out. Is that kind of it?
I didn't really get that part. I know that they said that you would have to move like you or they theorized that you'd have to move very
Well,
slowly,
yeah.
slowly out of the beach in order to bypass whatever like sort of force field was blocking them and keeping them in there. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I thought the entire premise was just like very ridiculous, and the way that they like sort of got through it was insane too. Like
Yeah.
it's all just really really preposterous things, and I don't think that the movie did enough to really like suck you into the world. Like you mentioned that the first half of the movie is kind of tough because you're just thinking about how preposterous it is. They also kind of like they make like these a lot of hint things in the very beginning that are not subtle at all, and that sort of took me out of it too.
Yeah. Yeah. There is at least, so that all these people are brought to this island where, before they get to the island, you see oh, the movie puts ass on the TL. So parents, if you're going to take your kids, it puts ass on the TL. Before they get to this beach, there's a girl putting ass on the beach. There's a man and a woman there, and the woman like walks into the water, and they cut back to the next morning when everyone's arriving. One of the characters that's there, one of the people that's in this group that's brought there, is a character named Jaren. And Jaren was my favorite character, and one about whom I have lots of questions, because Jaren is played by the kid from The Sopranos, and now he's old in real life. And that took me for a real trip.
Ooh,
That I saw that guy. You know who I'm talking about?
no, not really.
Were you a Sopranos guy?
Yeah.
Okay, he is Junior's he's like Junior's only friend in the uh I don't know if it's necessarily like a mental institution, but when
It's like the
Junior is
old folks care home.
right, he's in some home, and
Oh, sorry.
there's another patient there who's a kid, and they play like poker games, and whenever they pull any stunts, it's this kid that's in on it with them, and he's I don't know if I'd seen him in anything since. And then I guess as soon as they showed him, I was like, oh my god, that's the kid from The Sopranos, and now he's like 45 years old or something. That's some real that's M. Night Shyamalan letting you know that people do be aging anyway, whether or not you put them on this island. So all these people are on this island. The main character is Vicky Creeps, and you'll remember Vicky Creeps from Phantom Thread.
Hmm.
And I was so excited. I was excited enough to watch this movie anyway. And then when I looked at the cast, I saw Oh, it's got the kid from Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah, she
Was excited about
rocks.
that. She's great. She's like that's like I feel like often we'll talk about like a kid in a movie and just be like, watch out for that one.
Hmm.
And so some of them are obvious. And I think that this kid, Tomasin McKenzie,
Hmm.
is gonna be a stud. So
Same
watch out
same
for
with her brother in the movie, who is Alex Wolff, and he played he was in the Hereditary. He's been in a lot of good stuff. He was also in the Jumanji.
okay. I was trying to figure out who that kid was. I definitely knew him from something.
Yeah, he was the main character in Jumanji. He was in Hereditary. He's been in a good amount of stuff recently, and he's really good.
Okay, so it's a strong cast and Creeps rocks. I threw out a prompt Twitter thing off of realizing that Creeps was in this movie because I was like, oh, this is like my favorite actor that I've only seen in one thing. But like you just know, like she was so good in Phantom Thread,
Hmm.
and maybe it's just because that movie was so good that me seeing that Creeps was in this gave it a lot more legitimacy in my eyes. Now I started to think, okay, not only is this bounce back Shyamalan, this might be a classic, and it's set on the beach and everyone ages over the course of the day. So it's kind of like Beach Midsommar. Scary things happening, all with like a very nice aesthetic. So it had the makings of some good stuff, and it's just insane. We agreed earlier. This is gonna have to be we just kind of go blow by blow
Yeah,
and spoil it and ruin it because I think that if
but
you're gonna see old, you've seen it by now.
yeah, and it's tough because it's gonna be a tough task because there's just shit happening all the time in this movie, and like for the entire middle part, it is so stressful, and I think purposely so. Like I'll give M. Night Shyamalan credit for that. Like it is very pulse pounding, and it makes you uncomfortable based on how many things are happening all at once.
Yes, I just figured out another part of it. I just figured out the nosebleed thing. Very excited about that.
Blood clots.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't. That didn't dawn on me until after. So Creeps and her husband are getting a divorce, but they're going on a vacation with, or they're separating, I should say. They go on this vacation, and the husband is like, "Should we really be separating with you having this condition?" And she's like, we shouldn't let medical stuff get in the way of us living our lives. So you know that something's up with her. She's got a condition. And they're having breakfast at the hotel. They're cutting around different people. And this guy comes to them, this friendly local comes to them and says, hey, do you know if there's this beach by here that's awesome? It's really cool. It's like once in a lifetime, super, no one knows about it. I only send certain people there. You should check it out, spend the day there. They say yes to that, which is like number one rule of movies and honestly travel. If a friendly local recommends you go someplace you've never heard of, absolutely don't go
Well,
there.
that was like the he worked at the hotel, the resort.
Yeah, he's like the manager.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess like the main, it seemed nice enough there. But I feel like if you're going to a resort, the main rule is always, hey, don't leave the resort.
Oh, really? I don't
Y-
know if I've never done a resort
Depending on where
before.
you go, but like most of the time, the recommendation is to stay on the resort because a lot of the times those places that you go to, it's not super safe if you kind of go off
Okay.
on your own. But if the hotel and the resort is bringing you to a spot, then you can probably say like, "Hey, this is safe." So I don't blame them for that.
Okay. Well, so I'm just thinking in terms of, um, I mean, Taken is a bad example. That's just like boy flirts and is like, hey, come to this party. But certainly what are the films that I can't watch? Eli Roth, um,
Hostel?
Hostel. Though aren't those like they're on vacation and some
Yeah,
guys like, yo, come to this place. And then there's another one. Shoot, it's got a Spanish name where is it like touristas maybe?
maybe.
Where people they're vacationing somewhere and someone's like, "Yo, you got to come to this place." They take out their organs so quickly.
Oh boy.
They get there and they're just like, yo, organs, please. So generally, that's kind of a rule I have where unless someone's like, hey, do you like barbecue? 2 streets over, there's a barbecue place. I'm like, I think I can do that. So they get invited to this place. Meanwhile, they're just showing random other tables. There's this influencer who is bugging the waiter about, it says there's a calcium bomb drink.
Mm-hmm.
Is this actually enriched with calcium? Because I got a calcium deficiency. I'm trying to get some calcium. All she's doing is talking about calcium. And you're like, this better have something to do with the movie, because if I wanted calcium shoved down my throat, I'd look at a picture of Bill Clinton in the 90s
Ooh,
talking about the Got Milk campaign.
that's right. Good
So,
stuff.
It's a little Bill Clinton joke. Probably the most appropriate Bill Clinton joke that's ever been told.
That's true.
Shout out me on that one. So they get to. Am I missing anything so far? Is there anything that we should be including?
One woman has a seizure, has an epileptic seizure.
Bang. Yeah, there a lot of very eventful breakfast. A woman
Yeah.
has seizure, and there's 2 kids. They have 2 kids, Creeps and the soon to be Mr. X Creeps. Is they have 2 kids, and one of their kids is very into like home ownership.
Yeah.
He would be, who's my guy that writes the book I Will Teach You to Be Rich? That guy would hate this kid, because all that guy cares about is don't get a home. Mortgages are bad. Don't do it. This kid, he's like meeting friends, and he's like, hey, I hope that we can go to the same school and then become friends and then go to college and then have mortgages in like nearby towns. All he talks about is stuff like that. When he's playing toys, he's like, oh no, like, I'm going to leave you and I'm going to go live in a condo. All he talks about is home ownership. And he asks a lot of questions.
He asks
goes up to
a lot
people.
of people. He asks their name and their occupation.
Right. Which really gets me thinking. I haven't done that in a while, where I meet someone and I'm like, what do you do? There needs to be an alternative question to what do you do without like sounding creepy. Like if you're like you don't want to say like, what's your favorite place you've never been or whatever, or you don't want to sound like you're hitting on them. But I wish that you could be like, hey, what's your name? Pete. Oh, Pete, what type of movies do you like? Without it.
That would throw me off so bad that I would have to like leave that interaction. I'd be like, what? Nobody's ever asked me this.
Right. Shoot. Let's on the Patreon. Let's come up with a replacement for what do you do, because our jobs don't define us.
That's right.
The way we ask people icebreaker questions defines us.
What's your name? How do you feel about mortgages?
Yeah. Have you read? What's the name of this guy's book? Have you read the book I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi? Do you feel that he has some bias against Wells Fargo and Bank of America? Do you own a home? Was it difficult to read that as a homeowner? Did you feel that he was casting shade on you?
The other person would be like, wow, this guy reminds me of the
the
young kid from that movie Old by M. Night Shyamalan. Just really loves mortgage talk.
I bet that kid has so many friends, because he just goes up to everybody and asks them.
Has a lot of acquaintances at the very least.
Icebreaker questions. Did you, when was the last time you were in like an icebreaker required situation? Maybe like orientation or something?
Years ago, yeah.
Well, did you have to play any like icebreaker themed games?
I don't remember.
We did a thing where we stood around in a circle, and I think everyone's standing in the circle, and then one person yells like, if you blank, then run into the middle or something. And then there'd be fewer people in the circle, and then like the people in the middle have stuff in common with the people in the middle now. And it was basically like a way to be matched up with people that you share things with, but also you could tell if someone was cool by what kind of thing they chose as an icebreaker. I chose, if you own seasons 1 of 2 of Laguna Beach on DVD, get in the middle, kids. And that was like Pete.
Was it just you in the middle?
That was like, it was like me. I don't know, that was like peak lag season. So that was like there was like 5 or 6. No, I would say like 10 people that ran to the middle. And then later, one of the people that was in the middle, I was walking somewhere else and someone came out to me and was like, "Hey, was that you with the Laguna Beach thing?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Props." And I was like, "Thanks. That's a good show. I'm going to go get back to whatever I'm doing here."
That is a good icebreaker, especially in that situation, because not only do you have something in common with the people that actually go in there with you, the people on the outside are being like, damn, I need to be friends with those people because they got season 1 and 2 of Laguna Beach on
That's the
DVD.
thing.
I don't have
Yeah,
that, but I want it.
if you're hanging on the outside, if you're like, "What if I've seen a couple episodes and like definitely like it, I just don't own it yet. I'm so behind." And you sneak into the middle. That'd be allowed. Laguna Beach watchers are
It's the
we're a chill
ultimate
folk.
icebreaker.
Yeah.
That's a beach that you want to go to. Not this
Yes.
other fucking beach. Doesn't seem like as good a time.
What if you went to Laguna Beach? And I understand that it's not just like one beach, but what if you went to Laguna Beach and it was just all the people from like those are the only people that are there?
Just the cast.
Yeah.
I bet that, I mean, they're a lot older now, so maybe Laguna Beach does age them.
It's just like Jessica with like kids and stuff.
It'd be so
Alex, Alex H.
sad. Justin
Alex-
Bobby just fucking still trying to score every girl.
Alex H, Alex M. I think my favorite Laguna Beach character was Alex H, I believe. She was just like she wasn't about that drama. She was like, "Yo, we live in a cool space and like our parents are rich. Money's no object. We can just have fun. So let's just be easy and do that." Now that I think of it, Alex H smoked mad weed.
They were always drunk all the time
Oh
on
yeah.
that show.
Yeah,
And
Toby Keith and Laguna Beach sold a lot of red plastic cups.
oh yes.
Red Solo cups, I should say. So that's the movie Old by M. Night Shyamalan. That was the twist. They get to the beach and they were like, is that Dieter? Dieter, yeah. What happened in subsequent seasons, man? You were only in season 1. And I was like, I don't really like it. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I was young and I was like figuring out stuff I liked. Cool. You still talk to Talon?
What's the deal with Steven and Kristen?
Yeah, how they doing?
They're posting pictures right after Kristen separated from Jay. Anything going on there?
Oh, that's right. Just a whole lot of gossip.
That's right. That'd be the real twist to the biggest M. Night Shyamalan twist ever.
Yeah, and everyone's like, you're having a good time. You're talking really loudly. They're like, "Hey, would you mind keeping it down? Just kind of trying to keep a low profile." They're like, "Why? No, it seems like everyone here is cool. Everyone seems to know each other." They're like, "If you just keep it down, just keep." And you look over and you see that Jason's coming, and everyone's like, "Oh
shit,
Jason's here now. Whose heart's he gonna break?"
I can't believe that we've gotten this far into the old review without mentioning the fact that at the beach when they arrive, that there is a man there who looks quite sad and distressed, and he keeps bleeding from the nose, and his name is Mid-Size Sedan.
Mid-Size Sedan.
That's his rap name. He's a rapper, and his name is Mid-Size Sedan.
And the kid, the soon-to-be Thomasin McKenzie kid, is very excited.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Yo, it's Mid-Size Sedan over there. We got to grab a pic." The father is pretty nice, talking about what we were talking about the other day. Like, hey, he's on vacation. You don't just want to go up to him and get a pic. If you have an interaction with him, that's fine.
Respect his privacy.
Respect his privacy. So all these people are there. You mentioned that his nose is bleeding?
His nose is bleeding.
So his nose is bleeding, and all these people are there, all these different groups, and soon after they get there, they find a dead body.
Mm-hmm.
Not a great sign when you're at the beach.
It is the aforementioned butt on the TL. Now it is a much more pale butt on the TL because it has been in the water. It has been cold for a bit. It is a deceased woman who floats into one of the children, and they bring her ashore, and they're like, this woman is dead, and this man looks distressed. He's sitting here kind of looking suspicious. They
Got
know
blood
each
on his
other.
face.
He's got blood on his face. And so they kind of put two and two together, and they just assume that this guy killed the woman.
Right. And this speaks to the pacing of this movie as they're trying to figure out, okay, look, we just need to look, we're not accusing you of anything. We just need to make sure, like, do you have any, like, let's get any weapons off of you. Stay with us. Some people are kinder than others. There's one man there who is the husband of the influencer and or model. I don't know. I assume, I think it's suggested to be influencer because she's snapping a lot of pics, doing a lot of selfies.
She could just be vain.
Could just be, yeah, could just be vain. And he is a little more like, we gotta get to the bottom of this right away. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, like this is obviously very scary, but let's calm down. We do learn that this man is a doctor.
And
It's
it's also insinuated
eccentric
that he's
man.
quite racist.
What does he say?
Because, well, when they get to the beach, they're about to put down their umbrella, and he sees the rapper, who, by the way, is a black man, and he kind of like gives him like this like concerned look, and he's like, okay, let's move the setup further down.
Ooh.
So I think it was like sort of insinuated that either he was racist or he just really didn't trust the guy based off of how like sort of distressed he looked.
Interesting. I will admit, I backroad this movie, which is
Okay.
a move I like doing. Get the back row at an AMC. There's a lot of space between you and everybody else.
Gives you phone
And
privileges.
if you need, right, it's mainly for phone privileges. Like if you need to be on your phone, which last night I kind of did, but I wasn't missing old.
Mm-hmm.
I
Sounds like you might have a little bit.
I certainly missed that part.
Yeah.
I got some, like, I'm assuming this guy is racist kind of vibes off of him, but I didn't know that there was a no pun intended, there was like a kind of black and white clear, all right, this guy's racist. So as they're figuring out what's going on with this body, uh this guy's mother, the doctor, the potentially, or the racist doctor and husband of the vain person, starts to have some sort of medical issue, and yada yada yada, she dies. So does a dog.
That
Everyone's
was
like,
upsetting. I'm glad they
what's
didn't
cra-
show
what
the dog, though.
I know. So that's kind of weird, and everyone's like, well, that's, hey, this is something's going on this beach. They say we got to get off this beach, and then next thing you know, I think Jaren says we got to get off this beach. Jaren walks off the beach, or he starts to. Next thing you know, he's right at the front of the beach on the water, coming to because he blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening here? Crazy stuff's going on this beach. Jaren, by the way, is a nurse, so he can help with some medical things. And everyone's saying we got to get off this beach, but how? Every time we try, we black out. Meanwhile, the kids are just babbling to each other, talking about, you look different. No, you look different. You look different. The kid goes over to Creeps, the son, the realtor, he goes over to Creeps and says, my bathing suit feels uncomfortable and I'm going to take it off. Never something you want to hear anybody say, because even if somebody's saying like they're going to take off their bathing suit and it's in like an appropriate like sexual way or something like that, and it's like your partner or someone with whom you can take off bathing suits, I don't think anyone has ever phrased it,
Like
my bathing suit is
verbalize it.
uncomfortable
Yeah.
and I am going to take it off. So she's like, so the kid's like, my bathing suit's uncomfortable, I'm gonna take it off. She's like, what the hell are you talking about? That's really weird. Looks at him and she's like, you are looking a little funky. Bathing suit doesn't fit because this kid is growing.
Also, like, of all the situations where like the bathing suit might be uncomfortable, like that kid stayed skinny the entire time. His bathing suit would fit his bathing suit would fit better all the way through from childhood to adulthood, more so than like the girls that one of them gets pregnant. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
And then Thomas and Mackenzie was like a small child, and then she develops into like a young adult woman.
So that was the part I didn't need. That was the part I didn't need. I didn't need like a child in like a tiny bathing suit, like
Yeah.
going from like a prepubescent kid to I don't know what she's supposed to be, like 16, 17, 18, something like that, in like a child's bathing suit. I'm like, okay, just like show her face or something like that. And I think
To
they
be
only
fair,
did
they only did like one scene of that, and then they had her change because like the mother conveniently brought an extra bathing suit.
right. That is true. So, but as soon as they showed that, I was like, okay, what do you? Not, this is where like the Tarantino thing comes in. I'm not accusing Shyamalan of anything, but I'm like, all right, we get the point. They're kids. They don't fit in their bathing suits. Like, let's let's clean this up, folks. So these kids are all like, within a few minutes, they're like adults, and one of the kids gets another one of the kids pregnant because there's a kid in another group that's at the beach, and they have a baby.
I thought that entire thing was ridiculous. The
That
fact that
was
like those kids just met, they were one of them was 6 years old, the other one couldn't have been that much older, and then like within a few hours, they're just down to have sex on the beach while their parents are there.
And after the kid, the realtor kid gets a girl pregnant, he doesn't understand how she got pregnant. And when he said like, I don't understand, I was like, now they're gonna add in some like immaculate conception stuff like M Night, cool it. But the reason he doesn't understand it is because they only had sex once. And doesn't he say? He's like,
I thought it took at
you have,
least 10 times.
yeah, he's like, you have to have sex 10 times to get pregnant.
It's
I'm like, man, this kid knows a lot about a lot of things
mortgages and like
and very little about basic things.
yeah. And that sort of like I thought that was ridiculous too because like the insinuation was that like they got smarter or they aged with their body like their brain did. And this kid was very smart as a 6-year-old. So if he was ready to have sex as whatever, like a 16-year-old kid or whatever, you'd think that his brain would be able to process the information that like, hey, this is how people get pregnant.
That's true. Not to get like weird here, but if your 6-year-old brain suddenly, let's say it's like the movie like Big with
Mhm.
Tom Hanks, doesn't he like not know what to do with it?
Yeah.
Which is understandable because he's
Right.
going from like an 18-year like or an 8-year-old who like doesn't know anything about sex to like a, I don't know, what he's supposed to be like 35 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm like 30. I don't know what to do with it. So the fact
Right.
that this kid is 6, and then like in the span of 3 hours, he becomes a young man, and then like immediately figures out sex.
Oh, biggest plot hole in the movie.
Yeah, right.
Biggest plot hole in the movie. We're on to you, Shyamalan.
It's a
We don't want to like
weird thing. I definitely
we
didn't need that aspect of the movie.
yeah, we don't want to take this case to court because I feel like it would make us sound weirder than anybody that we've like thought about this plot hole, but that is just a massive
But
plot
I
hole.
mean, it was
As
very
you said,
very
adults don't know what to do with it.
right. It was very very clear that like Shyamalan wanted to put that in the movie just for the sake of having like a pregnancy in the span of like a minute, which you don't
And
need. We get it. We get what's happening to these people.
right, and the pregnancy does further, I guess, the severity of the stakes because they have the baby's healthy, and they're holding the baby. Something else is happening. She legitimately, the woman holding the baby looks away. Oh, I think it's the creeps. Her medical condition is a tumor, and her tumor is growing fast, and she's now passing out. So a woman holding the baby looks over to creeps and is like, hey, what's going on? Is she okay? Okay, let's get to this baby. Like legitimately looks away for like 5-10 seconds, something like that.
Hmm.
And the baby has died from lack of attention because like this baby is those 5-10 seconds or whatever was, I don't know, like 3 months or something.
Yeah.
So they use that to like underscore like, yo, time is legitimately of the essence here.
Mm-hmm.
Still very fucked.
I
Didn't
didn't. So I
didn't
didn't
need it.
realize. So like there's a couple scenes where somebody gets like cut open and it heals immediately. It didn't
Mhm.
take. It took me a little while to figure out that's because like over time the
Yeah.
wound healed and not like because of some like weird sort of dynamic where like invincibility or whatever.
Right, right. So the doctor is we find this out because the doctor, possibly racistly, slashes mid-sized sedan in the face with a knife, and mid-sized sedan's like holding his face after, and there's no blood dripping, and then he takes his hand off, and everybody's like, "Yo, something is wrong here." Uh, this doctor, performs surgery to remove the tumor from Creeps, and this tumor is growing like crazy. By the time they take it out, it is legitimately a
Cantaloupe,
a
they
Euro-
say.
a cantaloupe. I was gonna say like a European football. Cantaloupe is better. Cantaloupe, top 2 fruit. Don't at me. Elite. Um, but he can't perform the surgery because every time he makes an incision,
It
it
heals
heals.
immediately.
It scars. So all the people have to put their hands in, and that's where, like, no offense to this doctor, and this doctor obviously will discuss has a lot of problems. Jaren is a lot more medically apt, I feel.
Yes.
And maybe it's because obviously he's a nurse, but it's also, I think, partially because his wife has epilepsy. So I think that he's got a lot more, like, in addition to professional practice, like real life experience with a lot of it. But as the doctor is doing the surgery, he starts to ask questions about movies. That's like some shit that we would do if we were surgeons.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I didn't.
his
He keeps
wife,
asking about
Humphrey Bogart.
no, about there's a movie where Jack Nicholson was in it with Marlon Brando. Does
Oh, that's
anybody
it. Yeah.
know the name of that movie?
And it seems that his family members, his kid and his wife, understand, like, they're like, "Oh, just ignore him, honey, focus, honey, focus." And eventually you realize, I don't know if he's schizophrenic or what he is, but
He has a
there's
mental
a
illness.
yes, he has a mental illness. He eventually freaks out, does kill mid-sized sedan, and later is trying to kill Creeps' husband and Creeps, and they have to take turns, like, shielding each other from his knife, because as long as one of them just takes like
A flesh
one
wound.
right, like one flesh wound, it's healed in a second anyway. They just can't get a bunch of them at the same time. That's how mid-sized sedan dies. So does Creeps kill him?
Creeps kills him because she slashes him with a rusty knife, and the rust
Oh
ends
yeah.
up like really like poisoning his bloodstream.
Yeah.
And so that scene was very tough to watch.
Graphic, very graphic. You're
Yeah.
right. You're right. Yeah, because I think I didn't know that about rust. I know that, like, you don't want, if you prick yourself on anything rusty, like, you
You have
need
to get a
medical
tetanus
attention and
shot.
everything. Yeah, oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. So, but if you
That
get
would
stabbed with a rusty knife and then your body is aging,
yeah.
or like time is going by super quick, it's like over the 5 seconds that he dies, that's like a year or something.
Right, and it
Crazy.
poisons his bloodstream, and it is an ugly scene. That was the second toughest death scene in the movie. The most toughest death scene is his
Influencer?
wife.
Yeah.
His wife has a calcium deficiency, as noted earlier in the movie, and so like she doesn't take her calcium pills or whatever, and so her bones get very frail, and she breaks her bones like repeatedly, and they heal almost immediately, so they heal in like the wrong positions,
Uh,
and she ends up like looking like a twisted, like almost like a spider, like a
I
dead
was going to
spider.
say, right, like a spider that has, like, burnt in the sun, you
Hmm.
know? That part is gross. And there's some cinematography that helps with it. I mean, it's a horror movie. There's like a lot of, they're lighting a match because they can't see her, so it's like you see her and she looks pretty bad. You see her again, she looks really bad,
Mhm.
and like by the end, it's just disgusting. Um, so all these people are dying. Eventually, Creeps dies. Bums me out. I'm a big fan of Creeps.
Her husband
And
dies first, and then she dies immediately afterwards. Maybe she died of a broken heart.
oh, I love that. I like very the Purge anarchy of couple planning on getting separated, and by the end of the movie, they're like, "Hey, I love you," and
Hmm.
then one of them dies.
Yeah,
This
classic
is
stuff.
this is Beach Midsommar Anarchy. The name of this movie is. So I think at this point, then the only people remaining. Oh, and the girl that got pregnant tried to climb a rock or tried to like scale the cliff to get out of there, and everyone's warning her like, you're going way too fast, you're gonna black out, you're gonna black out. And she gets almost to the top and they're like, okay, well, you gone this far, like, yeah, keep going, I guess. And then she just stops, so you know that she blacked out and she falls to her death. So the remaining people are
Oh, and
a
uh the nurse's wife dies from a seizure.
yes, and Jaren dies because he decides he's going to swim to get help.
Hmm.
Very sad. He just washes up ashore.
So I think that covers everybody.
Yeah, it leaves the two kids, and they're now 50 years old or something.
Hmm.
The daughter is now played by the woman from Mad Men, Mad Men,
Madman.
Madman, and the son is now played by who's the son? Is he played by anybody?
No, but I'll tell you who I thought he was played by. Immediately, I thought that it was shoot, what's that guy's name? The model that the Stanley Tucci. I thought that it was Stanley Tucci in makeup because
What?
he had like a similar facial structure as Stanley Tucci, and I was like, no way are they doing this. And I figured out soon afterwards, like once he started speaking and stuff, and they gave up more like close-ups of his face, that it wasn't
Yeah,
Stanley Tucci. But boy, that would have been the biggest M. Night Shyamalan twist in the history of his career
that
if
would be
that happened.
amazing.
I was
And
disappointed, but yeah, he's played by what's this person's name? It is Eamon Elliott.
Eamon Elliott. Let's see what he might have been in. He's in Star Wars Episode 7.
Very cool.
He's in
Tell
Game of
me he does.
Thrones.
Tell me, click on like a few pictures and tell me he doesn't have like the same facial structure as Stanley Tucci.
Oh, you're right. He's got Tucci's son type stuff. Oh yeah,
He has
yeah.
the same face.
They have very similar faces.
Yeah.
Very similar faces. So they're all old now, and they are like, "Yo, we can keep trying to get off of here, but this is kind of it." And we just got each other. And it's weird because like they're still children, but they look 50, and they build a sandcastle, and they're talking about this kid that they met at the resort, and the kid at the resort had told little mortgage boy that he didn't have any friends, but he and mortgage boy was like, you can be my friend, look at all this stuff we do. We like decode stuff, we make like puzzles for each other, and like we make every letter is a different symbol.
Mhm.
And he teaches him that, and he says, as they're playing with the sandcastle, he's like, that kid said he made me a thing that I didn't decode. I should go do it.
Just
And
randomly,
right,
out of
just like
nowhere.
in the name, he decides to do it in the name of like being like still being a kid. Like, let's play with this stupid thing. And I think the daughter's just like a lot smarter than him, and she's like, could be helpful. And it says, my uncle doesn't like the coral. That's very like not Penny's boat type of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's coral, and they're like, yo, let's swim to the coral. They swim to the coral, they get stuck underneath. There's a whole thing, and there's been a person watching them the whole time, and they don't know why. There's been a person watching them, and it is the driver, the person who drove them to the island, who is played by actor M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Another rule: if a friendly local recommends you go somewhere that you've never heard of, and the driver is M. Night Shyamalan, don't go to that place.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's looking them. He sees they're swimming towards the coral. He's a little nervous, and then like 2 minutes go by, and he's like, "Phew." He records his thoughts. He's got all these cameras. He says, "Trial 73 is completed. So and so and so and so have just died. So this is now done." And this is where the movie gets interesting. It takes a long time for this movie to get interesting, but this is like 2/3 of the way through the movie. He goes back, and it turns out that this is a pharmaceutical company. They make medicine, and he turns in all their findings, and they make a big announcement. They say, "Hey, so the woman that had epilepsy did not have a seizure for, let's say, 3 hours, and that's 18 and a half years or whatever. And it's because of when everyone arrives, they say, like, oh, based on like your dietary restrictions or preferences, like we've made you drink or whatever. And the drink is just a medicine they're working on. And so they find that they cured epilepsy. It's a pretty sweet score.
Yeah.
But they have to kill off a bunch of people every time they do these tests. And then after, the person who announces it goes up to the head of the hotel and is like, dude, we've got to stop putting people with mental illness in the group. We lost our blood clot guy. And that explains why he had a bloody nose. So everything kind of comes together, and there's a real moral dilemma you can imagine these people have, where they're saving hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people, but at the expense of like taking children and basically just like ending 10, 15 people's lives, like not giving them a chance. But they piece together that like, oh, everybody, all these people had medical conditions and they were working on all these things. So that's why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And the twist is, of course, that the kids got out. They found a hole in the coral where they could put their heads up and breathe. They swam through it. They got out, and they get everybody arrested. And that's kind of it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think that it's a very interesting premise for a movie, and I don't know if it was done the best way that it possibly could have been. I feel like it was a lot of things were over explained. It was just like, okay, we get it, and like even things that they hint at in the movie, like if you got a brain, you're making the connections, and if I feel like they kind of were too black and white with a lot of things, and they kind of didn't let you sort of make your own conclusions. And I didn't like that they let the kids live. I thought that was kind of like a cheap, clean ending. I would have liked it so much more if they had just drowned and then ended on the on like the laboratory scene, and they just like they bring in the next group of people, and then the movie ends there. I think that just would have been a better ending. This is too tidy, and it was too convenient that like the note was about the coral, and like the coral thing was a stupid like way out anyway. So,
right, like we hadn't been thinking about the coral at any point. There was never any like, hey, what's going on with that coral over there?
Right.
Should we do anything with that? Is there, hey, that coral is glowing funny or something like that? Yeah, you're right. It would have been way more of like a real movie, and obviously this is an insane movie, but it would have felt like more of like a real movie if they die and you're like, well, what the hell is this horrible place? And then that's always like a creepy element to movies, when something is bad the whole way and then it's presented at the end of like all these people that think they're doing the right thing, and that like this was like for a good cause, and you're like, ugh. Like if at the end of Escape Room, if they were like, yo, we got to do these escape rooms, it helps with like, I don't know, like endangered animals for some reason. And you're like, damn, let's discuss
I like animals.
ethical.
Yeah.
It's like, this saves dogs. And you're like, how many? And they're like, just don't worry about it. It's saved a dog before. And you're like, damn, let's discuss the ethical dilemma of Minos.
Yeah, I think that I would have liked it a lot better had it not been so tidy at the end. And I think that this movie might have worked better either as a book or like under a different director. I hate to say it, but and like it feels mean because M. Night Shyamalan wrote it, And
Yeah.
it's a again, I like the premise. I think that it's a very interesting idea. I don't think that it was fully fleshed out. And I
Yeah.
don't think that it was packaged in the best way possible.
Confirmed not bounce back Shyamalan.
No.
Like, I don't hate I didn't hate this movie.
No, me
I'm
neither.
glad we saw it. I like that we were able to talk about some of the ridiculous things about it, but definitely not bounce back Shyamalan. A question I have, and I can't decide whether we should do it right now or whether it's something we could maybe throw into Wednesday's episode and maybe get some like Bruntouchable submissions. This came up the other night. We were talking about Shyamalan, and one of my friends was like, "Yeah, like we're always waiting for him to do something good, but like at the end of the day, he made The Sixth Sense, dude." And I was immediately, my brunch brain turned on, want to turn into some fun little game. Who is the M. Night Shyamalan of like other stuff? Like, who is the M. Night Shyamalan of music, where they come out the gate with something so good, so iconic, and then every time they do something after, it's noteworthy because you're like, from the person who made this, it's this other stuff. But then all that happens is a couple years later, you're waiting for the same thing of like, ooh, could this be the next great thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's like, and I think the question is like, how long do you get a pass when you've made something iconic,
Right.
and then you have like a bunch of strikeouts afterwards?
Right. Like, at what point are you just bad? And I think a lot of people, honestly, at this point, think that like M. Night Shyamalan's just bad.
I think there's more
I
evidence to suggest that he's bad than there is that he's good.
Right. So let's let's talk about that more in detail Wednesday. Bruntouchables, submit people. We could talk about it. My answer was Lord, which
That's a good but I think that the sample size is still too small with Lord.
right. And the thing that Lord did after Pure Heroin, like
Was is
Melodrama
liked
wasn't
by a
very
lot of
good.
people. It's liked by a
Right.
lot of people though.
Exactly. It's beloved, and it has Green Light, which is a great song. So even that, I would say that Lord has a higher hit
Well, I
rate.
guess like the answer to that is it's like boiled down to one hit wonders. But it's not
Yeah, but it would.
that's not necessarily like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first thing that they've ever done.
yeah. And I don't know if I don't know if Sixth Sense was Shyamalan's first thing, but it was definitely early on. But I think that in the case of most one hit wonders, it usually isn't like a band that's like put out 5 albums on a major label and then they put out a big hit and you're like, okay, that makes them a one hit wonder. It typically is kind of the Shyamalan path where it's early on and they're just chasing it. But I don't know, like Jimi Hendrix technically is a one hit wonder, but people know that he really isn't. Yeah, it is very similar to one hit wonder, but think of it in the Shyamalan type of way. Get to us, get at us, listen to brunch.com patreon.com/listen to brunch. You already know what it is. You subscribe. Thank you very much. Have a blessed weekend, gang.